Hello, Jane. How are you?
Hello, Andrew. It's good to see you and good to see all of you again.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Yeah, so
We are actually going back to the 90s again, Andrew. We might as well say it. We are.
yes, we are. I was wondering whether to keep quiet about this, but yes, folks, we have perhaps inevitably found ourselves dragged, not kicking and screaming because we were
Oh,
looking forward to this, but we are back in 1998 or
yes.
1999. I think it was 98. And we are, of course, doing that beautiful, beautiful film, Shakespeare in Love, which I think was the summer blockbuster that year,
It
if I'm not
was.
mistaken.
It was, and it was a brilliant, brilliant, funny comedy romance. And it actually ended up winning 7 Oscars. So it did really, really well. And it's a peculiar theme, this, because we are in Elizabethan London. So we are in the late 1590s in the great world of theatre. And it has such a wonderful humor and comedy perspective, this film, to it. So you're even though it's dealing with probably the most tragic of love stories ever written, Romeo and Juliet, we still have this wonderful comedy going on behind it all.
Yes, I thought that was beautifully done because, of course, I think, as most of us know, even if we only know the play in passing, Romeo and Juliet is what possibly one of the saddest
Yeah.
stories Shakespeare penned, if not the saddest. So how you weave a romantic comedy around the creation of that play is challenging. I like how they do it. I like this gradual metamorphosis from Romeo and Ethel, the pirate's daughter, as the goes from the ludicrous to the sublime. Um,
And a bit with the dog.
oh yes, yes, you've got to have lots of comedy and at least one dog because that's what the people want. I like the resonance with very modern themes there, where certain people will complain, oh, the arts are just not what they used to be. People just want laughs and a dog now. I don't know whether people were having those conversations in the 16th century, but I like to think that they were. We live in a declining age of fine art. It's all over.
That would have been very, very good. And you actually, in a peculiar way, the movie manages to set up the scenes around, the meaning and the power of theater at the time, the master of the revels, the queen's position, and all of that. And this whole perspective of theater versus reality and the playhouses and being, sort of houses of sin and immoral settings and that kind of thing, and yet approved by the Queen, and it's a very peculiar walk that the playhouse balance the playhouses has to have to strike at this moment in time.
Yes, because of course actors have a bit of a reputation, don't they? Unfortunately, it's not always earned, but they have long had a bit of a reputation for living on the wild side. And actually in a way that I like how the film nods to it, because quite far on in the film when they all go to the tavern and it is your classic it plays into the popular imagination of Tudor carousing where the ale's free flowing and the ladies of negotiable affection are out doing their thing and but it's all very I suppose it's funny because the Tudor era, if I'm not mistaken, they were quite some were moralistic in their outlook, but it's also quite a fun-loving, almost bawdy society at the same time, and very earthy. I think that's what I'm
Yes.
looking for.
That is true. That is true. There was a peculiar setup, really, because it wasn't an overlap, but there was a peculiar setup between the lives lived and the sort of moral, almost at times religious way of looking at life and of upholding life. And the morals of life that mattered a lot. So it was a very peculiar contrast. And another thing, I think, theme in relation to that the movie is also touching on is this whole, as the Queen says it, a woman in a man's profession. There is the entire no
Mm.
displaying of females on stage going on, which is a very double moral thing as well, because you have females on stage, they're just men dressed up as women.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, and it is an interesting topic. Now, I tried to find out and completely failed whether there were any real life incidents of women being able to sneak into the role, but I couldn't really. I mean, do we know if any women ever made it onto the stage, even if it meant disguising themselves as men, as you so often had to do for lots of
I
things?
imagine it took place, but I don't know. I've never actually come across any. But I have heard of actors also at the time who notoriously always played women because they either had rather feminine features or voices that could, go very high and high pitched and sound like a female. And maybe also something in the way you as an actor learn to move in like big
Hmm.
dresses and that kind of thing. So there were definitely, and we also have that little funny thing with the young boy whose voice hasn't dropped yet.
Oh yes, that went so wrong on opening night, didn't it? The poor fellow. I really feel for him because he's the forgotten tragedy to me in the tragedy because I think he's the only one who doesn't make it onto stage because his voice is crap. All of the rest of the cast get their go, and of course, Viola gets to come steaming triumphantly
Yes.
back as Juliet, and
Even the stuttering, I think he's a tailor.
oh,
I got a bit
Wabash,
of debt.
yes.
I got a bit of debt. We better take it. And you just
Oh
go, this
yes,
is
and
not
he,
this is
he's
not going to go good. But somehow he manages to, I don't know. It's a mystery. It always works out.
it is a mystery indeed. Thank you, Henslow. That's I love how he just comes up with that. All those sequences where Shakespeare's freaking out, where something is about to go wrong, and Henslow just goes, "It will be all right."
It
Don't
will
know
be.
how, but
Don't know. It's a mystery. It's a mystery.
yes, yes, and I think even when he's being threatened by well the money really, well the
Yes.
theaters have all been closed because of the plague. It will be fine, honestly. And sure enough, the theaters are reopened. Okay.
Okay. Okay, right. But another thing that's also wonderful, and I actually think they do this in a really elegant, very subtle way in the script in the movie, is that that these constant sprinkles of Shakespeare quotes, like for example, the priest outside the theater going, "A plague on both their houses," and you can sort of see
Mm,
Shakespeare going, "Hey, that has a nice ring to it. I'm just going to
yes.
thank that one for later." And at the same time, there is this constant line of I guess the theater as a mirror in a way, art intimidating life or life intimidating art. There's a
Mm,
constant overlap of partly Shakespeare's mood as he's writing, depending on whether or not he's heartbroken or in love or in and out of both. So there is a lot of the writer himself in going on in the plays as well, and and he's writing very much depending on how he's feeling right now in those moments, which is I guess also a nice way of saying life is overlapping with theatre or with the play.
yes, and it's very beautiful where you get those sequences of scene swapping between him and Viola when they're alone and
Yeah,
bouncing lines off each other among other things, and then you get straight to the rehearsals where exactly the same dialogue is being rehearsed, and they just flow so
yeah,
beautifully from one to the other. Beautiful bit of cinematography.
yeah, very much so, very much so.
Yeah,
That was
and I
really
think that there's a lot to what you just said. Yes, yeah, the boundary between life and theatre which should be in many ways very blurred,
yeah.
and they do a grand job with this.
And and that's what really special about. I mean, if you go to the Globe Theatre today in London, it's a very special scene because you are, especially if you're a groundling, if you're standing up, which I love, you're
Hmm.
so in it. You're in the play. You're like sucked into it, and the
Yeah,
actors are often all around you. It's a wonderful theatre setup. Those round theatres.
yeah. Yeah, it is a great concept, and I understand why there is only one globe. I don't know if we've got any other, Elizabethan style theatres anywhere in the country, but it could do with, making more of a comeback, I think. I know having just the Globe in London makes it a very special
Yeah,
experience for people. And also people might object to stand. I think we've become too used to comfortable theatres
yeah,
where everyone's got a seat.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
no groundlings here.
And you're a bit separated, you're sitting down here and the stage is up there, so it's very
Yeah.
much audience stage. Where this was, and you can even see that in the film that, the audiences, they're sort of leaning up against the stage, and they can almost reach out and grab the feet of the actors sometimes.
Yes, and I really love that because you're right. It does give them this level of sort of intimate contact.
Yeah,
You're a fly on the wall in the room,
yeah,
much more so than you'd perhaps feel in a modern theatre setting. And I know there's a lot of wonderfully immersive theatre today that you a well-written story or a well-acted story, and you're in there anyway, but maybe it's not quite the same.
yeah, no, true. True. No, that was wonderfully done. Anyway, Andrew, I wanted to dive into the story a little bit with you. What do you actually think of this fictive, obviously, story of Shakespeare meeting Viola de Lesseps and her being promised away and all of this happening to create Romeo and Juliet?
I think it's a beautiful story and it's well told. And I'm very impressed at how many characters it
Yeah.
juggles. This is quite a character heavy film. And some of them are very tangential, like the charming little boy who plays John Webster. And others like Geoffrey Rush's Philip Henslowe is always there, but not overtly there. And all these people that Shakespeare fans will recognize and go, "Oh yeah, it's him or her," and yeah, I think they've woven together a wonderful tale. The other thing I really like about I mean, a lot of it's sort of recycled Shakespearean tropes, like disguise, boys, girls dressing as
Yep.
boys, and vice versa. And but it's not done in a way that seems, oh God, they're just doing that again. It's really well done. And there's some scenes that I really love, like Shakespeare somehow missing the fact that the strangely compelling young Thomas Kent is can't understand why I feel like this. And then as Thomas runs out of the boat and up the steps, and the boatman says, "Thank you, my lady." And Shakespeare just looks at him and like, "What do you mean?" And the boatman just has this look of what you couldn't tell it was a girl in boy's clothing.
No, no,
And,
since he was
and
this high.
yeah, yeah, and just the fact that here's Shakespeare, the master of,
Yeah.
story of disguise and dress up, being completely fooled by something that's not really kidding other people. So it's wonderful. There's so many layers to this. What else would I like to pick on it? I'm awfully sorry, Jane, if you were hoping I would do a narratively faithful look at this. I'm afraid I'm more of a kid in a candy store, just going,
And
oh,
that's how
they
it
did
should
that,
be.
they did
That's how
that.
it should be, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as you say, it's a mark of a good story. And I mean, looking at some of the characters, like Geoffrey Rush's Philip Henslowe. I mean, I don't know how many people outside diehard Shakespeare or Elizabethan theatre fans would know who Philip Henslowe is, but I
Oh,
I do like the fact that he's in there and he plays this role. And I hope, guys, if you've never heard of Philip Henslowe, we know a bit about him because his diary survives. Go read it. It's very
yes.
interesting.
And
Um,
also Burbage was in it.
Yes, Burbage is in it, and it was a funny one because he's played by Martin
Yeah.
Clunes, isn't he? Now, I wasn't sure about this at first because my understanding was Burbage, like Ben Affleck's character Ned Allen, he's a very famous actor of the time, and as well as owning a theater and doing loads of other things. And I thought they would cast someone a bit more. I've got to be careful what I say now because I really like Clunes, but someone a bit more dashing, a bit more Ben Afflecky.
Yes.
But you know what? In the end, the casting worked brilliantly because Clune, for the kind of Burbage they were presenting in the story, Clunes was a inspired choice, and he plays it so well.
That's actually a good point. Also, because he's part of the comedy occasionally in some scenes, but
Hmm.
towards the end, there's also he's one of those people who represents the seriousness that's seeping in because he's the one who's actually having to make that decision when they find out, oh my God, we haven't got a Julie yet, and they fetch Violet and she's jumping in, but he's the one with that concerned look, going, oh, this is a woman. Oh, they're not. This is not good. So he's actually the one taking that risk.
Mm.
And I do like that we get to see that little bit of seriousness behind the comedy there, that he's not just a comical figure.
Yes, yeah, you do get that glimpse. And also he comes into the tavern after
Yeah.
they've been
Yes.
shut down by Tilney, and
Brilliant speech, by the way. Brilliant speech he's doing there.
he does. Yes, yes, it's funny, especially given that when he walks in, the first thing he hears is, "Don't kill him."
That can wait. That can wait. And then it comes that. That's really, and even Mr. Henslow is going,
Oh yes, I know. Isn't that really quite? Yeah, he quotes one of Shakespeare's lines, doesn't he? Is it the line about we must show them that we are men of many parts? And
yes, 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 that's the one. That's another little sprinkle there of Shakespeare quotes there. That's very, very good. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and of course that.
he is a one. And you're right, he was wonderfully cast. He really was.
Yeah, and the whole film is just full of these goodies. It's so wonderful. I was tempted to roll a bit of a hand grenade in because I know there is a sore point among a certain number of people who believe that Marlowe basically wrote all of Shakespeare's work.
Ah, yes.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
I like the very gentle nod the film makes to this idea when Shakespeare and Marlowe are talking in the tavern, and there's obviously this odd kind of friendship come deep
Yes.
rivalry going, and Marlowe's going like, ah, Romeo, Italian name, okay, you shouldn't really tie it up with Ethel. I don't know if the whole pirate shipwreck thing works. It's overdone. Maybe make it a tragedy and do work on that title. Yes.
And I love the recognition there when he goes, so what's yours? And he goes, Romeo and Ethel, the pirate's daughter. And there's this 1 second. Yes, I know. I know. And then he sits there with the massacre of Paris, and there with Romeo and Ethel, the pirate's daughter. That's,
Oh yes, yes, and also that I love the visual cue in the way they're both dressed because Marlowe, of course, is absolutely
yes.
resplendent in his lovely stuff, and there's Shakespeare in his workman's leather jerkin.
No, another brilliant casting there, by the way. And then the entire, Marlowe being killed in a tavern fight thing, and using that as guilt to place on Shakespeare. Because I
Mm,
think that's also a turning point. That's when we go from it being love or tragic love covered in humor to now we move into the more serious phase of the film. So there's a turning point, at least in Shakespeare's mindset as well, around that time when he actually thinks that he's responsible for Marlowe's death.
yes, and it is very sobering.
Mm.
It's funny, well, the first time I ever watched that film, I never thought I had Shakespeare down as a particularly religious man. He may have gone through the motions, as many did in his time. But no, there's that genuine repentance scene in the church, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which I think sets him up for confronting Wessex the next day when everyone files in for Sunday worship. I mean, that's quite fun when he runs out the cathedral going, "No, spare me, ghost." I did wonder whether there's a bit of a nod to the presence of ghosts in a lot of the plays too.
Yes, I do believe there is, because there wouldn't have been that scene serves no purpose whatsoever if it hadn't been for the fact that we have ghosts in quite a few Shakespeare plays.
Yeah,
So yes, that I think that is a fair notch. And also, I do believe it's a little out of character for Wessex to be frightened so easily. Uh,
yes,
but I gotta again hats off to the wonderful Colin Firth, and he's doing a wonderful job of being a complete and utter fob, And at the same time, he's basically doing what men with money did at the time. So
Yes.
he bought himself a wife.
Yeah, yeah, he does it plays into another popular perception of the period which is largely true, certainly at aristocratic level, that women are just property and you bargain them away. And it's a bit of a worn trope, isn't it? I offer you nobility. Oh, we have money. Let's meet in the
Yeah,
middle and we both benefit.
yeah,
And yes, poor Viola. It's so transactional, isn't it? And they did it so well. I thought
yeah,
it's an easy one to mess up because it's a theme that you see in so many period
yeah,
dramas. But I think it was beautifully done, and a lot of that was indeed down to the very, very well played character of Wessex, who he's another one who's key, but he doesn't have that much screen time in the end, and he makes the most of it. I
yeah,
think good old Firth, he
yeah.
really came
He
through for
delivers.
that character. I'm actually happy for him in one respect, because he is not a nice man at all, but I am glad that they didn't indicate in the film that he's responsible for Marlowe's death, because I
Yeah,
know there's that little argument after him and Shakespeare have had a bit of a fight. He says, "I know nothing of Marlowe's death." It was, and
yeah,
then I think it's actually Ned who comes over and says, "No, no, Will, actually Marlowe started it and then
yeah,
got killed. It was an argument over the bill."
yeah.
Oh, I feel really silly now.
Yeah, no, no, true. That is true. And it also because in a way this in the same way Romeo and Juliet ends in a very tragic way, this movie couldn't really have a happy ending. You needed that separation and also for the entire 12th night and Viola becoming a character. Again, that
Mhm.
beautifully overlap between reality and theater, that Violet now becomes a character in his next play and someone who dresses up like a man. And
Yes.
that kind of thing. So again, that wonderful little nod. Um, but it also made me think that, in Elizabethan theatre, we basically have two genres. We have the comedy, a bit with a dog and a pirate, and we have the tragedy.
Hmm.
Um, and it's sometimes made me wonder because even in modern films, in modern novels, and so on, we often end up accepting the bittersweet ending.
Hmm.
Occasionally, we love a good fairy tale and a happy ending, and they live happily ever after. But I think the bittersweet ending, there's a reason why it's still a classic. There's a reason why we kind of need a bit of misery in both the comedy and in the romance and as well, because if it wasn't there, we didn't have that overlap with reality, did we?
No, no, if it's too much of an extreme of one of the other, it doesn't ring true to us. And yes, and the best literature, I suppose, to an individual is the one they can identify most with. And yes, yeah, no, I think that's a very important point, Jane. We do need a mix of the two to make
Yeah,
it work. And I really feel Shakespeare needs that ending that he gets to make him work in literally as well
yeah,
as metaphorically, because you get the feeling at the end of the film that what he shared with Viola, basically, he now has his muse for life, and as he says, you'll never age for me, and you'll always be
yeah.
there. And you do wonder, without that, it might have been, he might have had a few more good ones. Then it would be followed by Ethel the dog and random pirate's daughter, who's actually a boy disguised as a little girl, and it
And I
it wouldn't
guess
have gone well.
it also made you wonder if Viola's ending is empowering or actually tragic, because I guess in a way, yeah, it's not what she wants, and she has to go to Virginia with this fob of
Hmm.
a man. But in a way, she's done something that women normally didn't, and something, very powerful comes out of it.
Yes, yes, it's quite affirming for her because
Yeah,
she is a wonderful character. I like how strong-willed she is, and I like how I mean it again, sort of reality butting up against popular perceptions. I get the impression, and it's been a long time since I studied the Elizabethan period. I think I was still an undergraduate the last time I touched it. But the surprising number of well-educated women, even among the because we get this impression, it's largely hearsay that we didn't educate women at all, but they were taught quite a few, certainly, at least linguistic and artistic accomplishments, and I love that how she reflects that in her love of theatre,
Yeah.
which is really wonderful. It's always rewarding, I suppose, when you see someone really getting into it.
Yeah. And it also
And
makes, theatre is not just a background in that setting. It sort of
yeah.
becomes it becomes a world of its own. And I love that even those slightly comical personas like Henslow and the Master of the Rebels and so on, they are also in their own right gatekeepers of the art. They care deeply about this, and in their own way, they want to preserve it. And at the end of the day, that's also why they actually join forces towards the end to set this play up.
Yes, yes, and that is a very beautiful moment because it's I like how the film explores how all these people know each other and the
Yeah.
complex interrelations, even among the rivals. And you can be you sort of and the way Shakespeare plays off more than one people about, do you want the play? Do you want the play? Give me some money and we can talk about this. And yeah, they share everything, ideas, sometimes personnel. In one case, no, in three cases, a mistress, which is a bit
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
The wonderful Rosaline, who's a busy lady.
Yes.
Yeah. I love how they're doing business meeting while she's just
Basically, yes.
carrying on doing what she does. Yeah, that's will you please
Yeah, that was quite a laugh out loud moment for me. I had to try not to in the cinema, but yes, and also the fact that the two men are completely deadpan. This is happening, but we've got important things to discuss. I'm just going to lean round so I can make eye contact with you. So-
we just do a break here so I can have this conversation?
yes, you
Said,
stupid
said,
woman.
said no man ever. Yeah.
Well, it's funnily enough, I was thinking it. I'm glad you said it.
Oh dear, oh dear. And also in a way the playing off with Ned and his men there because he has to be lured into this play that we are in desperate need of a young gentleman called Mercutio and at the end of the day the play is less and less and less about Mercutio and we get that wonderful little he dies with such passion he dies.
Yes, it's like, do you know who I am? I'm Ned. I'm Ned. I'm not Sean Bean. I'm Ned Allen. You used me throughout the play, damn you, man.
He dies. And I
Yeah.
like how it lands a few seconds later. It's like, hang on.
Wait,
Guys.
what?
But at the end of the day, Ned is also the one saying this is good.
Hmm.
So keep going. But
Yes.
yeah, because he recognizes good writing. But yeah, it's a wonderful in and out of the comedy characters and the gatekeepers of theatre and the arts, and at the same time the seriousness that sort of a little bit hidden, but it's there all the time.
Yeah.
That balance is beautifully done.
It is indeed, yes, yeah. I do like how they weave a lot of the story into scenes of preparation work because I
Yes.
mean that really reinforces
Yeah.
that it's not a play is never something one just picks up and runs with on the night. There's so much going
No,
on there.
that's a really good point, Andrew. And also, though, I think they really comes through in those scenes where Violan and Will are together, usually in bed, and they're reading together, because it's not just something you start acting. You have to read it and really understand what you're reading in order to
Hmm.
get into a character and a role that's so complex. And especially if you're playing a woman playing a man pretending to be a man,
Yes.
whatever that was. But so there is a scene where he's got the play written out and she's saying, "Will you read with me?" And actually, that's a wonderful scene where that is demonstrated because to her it's the first time she's seeing this. She knows the setting, the scene, the atmosphere of the play, but it was complex to do. You know, it wasn't just a matter of being able to do the play, do the words. It was a complex thing to do in theatre at the time, and it really required some skill.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And even down to movements. I do like that little insertion they do when they're doing the dance rehearsal, which Ned is leading.
Yes.
Gentlemen to the left and ladies to right. Are you a lady, Master? Which of course has another, as we know, another layer of humor to it. It's like, no, 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 sorry.
Sorry about that. Oh,
Am I a
habit.
man or a woman today?
Yes. And then he gets really angry about it because, oh God, we have to do this again. Come on.
Yeah, no, I do feel for them, and during the auditions as well. I mean, the fact that Shakespeare sprawled on with this bored look on his face while all these hopefuls are going, and I'm going to recite something from Marlowe's excellent. Yes, of course you are.
How refreshing.
Yes.
Is this
Yeah.
the face that launched 1,000 ships? Yep. But you know, there's also a funny thing about that is the entire, I guess, the ownership of a play, because as you rightly said, the little scene there in the tavern between Marlowe and Shakespeare, who's helping who here? Because,
Mm.
you know, they're actually sitting there brainstorming off each other. You know, Romeo is Italian, always in and out of love until he meets Ethel. And you know, so they actually, oh, and there's that tiny moment, oh, the daughter of his enemy, the daughter, oh,
Yes.
that's actually really good. And you know, so there is that entire, where does ideas, creativity come from, and who owns it? And just because I put it down on a paper, does that mean it's mine? You know, and
Yeah.
that's actually a wonderful little sort of, I guess, discussion point there as well. That's sort of hanging over the movie a little bit there as well.
Mm. Yes, quite a strong one, and one that's still relevant today, really, because when we look at there's this situation, I suppose any artist finds themselves in, that once you release your work, people will make what they will of it. And whether it's that performing it in a different way, or maybe even adapting it,
Yeah.
or giving it a completely different spin through visual cues, and you might sit there going, "That's not what I intended at all," but people are now running with it.
Yeah.
So,
And I got to say, I've seen some wonderful adaptations of Shakespeare. The last one I saw at the Globe was Much Ado About Nothing, and it was set in the Mexican Revolution. And you
oh,
sort of go, okay,
okay.
that's a bit weird. But it worked wonderfully because at the end of the day, the foundation of the story
Mm.
works. And as long as you keep to that, you can put it in whatever setting you want, in a modern setting, in a
Yeah.
prehistoric setting, in whatever you want, and it will somehow work. And I guess you as a writer, and if you that's probably the greatest compliment you can achieve if your stories can somehow transcend setting, time, atmosphere, characters, whatever it might be, then there is something in your stories that's fundamentally working.
Yes, and a number of times Shakespeare plays have informed, I'll say, movies with completely different titles. Because am I right in thinking, oh, what was that film called? 10 Things I Hate About You is basically The Taming of the Shrew, isn't it?
It is, yeah,
Heavily adapted, but
yep,
still at
yep,
its heart, it's
yep. True, true. And there are
and
still actors who you know when they're doing very modern films like superhero films or something, they still refer back to Shakespeare if they're doing like complicated father-sons relationships or complicated love relationships or friends fighting each other or rivalry or whatever it is. There's still a huge reference back to Shakespeare's play or power battles, you know, the king for his throne and all of that. And I guess that's probably the fundamental reason why some plays survive.
Yeah, yeah, no, and he certainly was prolific. We do know that.
Yes.
Funnily enough, the last Shakespeare-related thing I went to see was a very excellent production. It is a comedy. It's the complete works of William Shakespeare brackets
Oh
abridged.
yes. How
Yeah,
was
the
that,
whole
Andrew?
it was brilliant, and the whole rattle through everything in 90 minutes. So
Oh my God.
with only some slight dishonesty, I can now say I've seen every work of Shakespeare on stage. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get away with that, but
90 minutes, that's bloody impressive.
yes, it was, especially as they linger quite a bit on some of them. But it's beautifully done. And do you know what? I would actually go see it again sometime because
Oh, I gotta go see that. That's fantastic.
yeah, it's hilarious, and I would heartily recommend it.